Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my friends, my name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out from Reedville, a gem of a neighborhood located in southwest Boston, Massachusetts, and we are so thrilled that you are here. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful, to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. Every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imaginations. Do you want to help us grow in this mission? Then tell all of your friends, your family, and your kids' teachers, even the crossing guard, that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have four wonderful guests for you today. First up, Carolyn Fraiser. She's here to celebrate her new picture book, M is for Mason Jar. Our friend Evelyn Bookless returns. She is here to celebrate her picture book. It's called Jinx. Later in the show, Sarah Elizabeth Graves is on with her son Parker to celebrate Attack of the Monster Pickles. I want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Big Fork Brands. Looking for the perfect way to turn an ordinary evening into an unforgettable family moment? We've got the recipe. Start with a great book, add a cozy blanket, and finish it off with some mouth-watering snacks from Big Fork Brands. Big Fork's bacon sausage is unreal. It's nitrate-free, hardwood smoked, and packed with flavor. Their bold Chicago-style sauces and high-protein meat snacks are made for families who want clean, honest ingredients that taste amazing. So the next time you're planning a family read-aloud night, serve up some big flavor with Big Fork Brands. Visit bigforkbrands.com and use the code READ for 20% off your order. Because food and stories, they're both better when shared together. That's bigforkbrands.com. Use the promo code READ for 20% off your order. Join us right now from the beautiful state of North Carolina. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called M is for Mason Jar. Please welcome to the show, Carolyn Fraiser. Hey, Carolyn, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing really, really good. You know, North Carolina, we've had lots and lots of guests from North Carolina. It seems to be a home to a lot of children's authors.
Yes, it is. We have a thriving community of writers, authors, artists, all kinds of creative people, musicians. It's just a wonderful creative place to live.
Now, is this a place where all these creatives are going to, or are you just sprouting up creatives like corn?
Oh, that's a great analogy. I think it's a little bit of both. I know people in the children's publishing world who have lived here their whole lives, and I've met quite a few who've moved and relocated to the area. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a combination of both. There's just a real draw here to North Carolina.
Yeah, and a great reading community. I attended the North Carolina Reading Association convention a couple of years ago, and boy, that was a lot of fun. Winston-Salem is a fun little city.
It is. I love Winston-Salem, and I've been to the Reading Association conference the last 2 years, and I've absolutely loved it. They're a great bunch of people.
Yeah, really are. Well, let's talk about M is for Mason Jar. I didn't grow up with mini mason jars here in Boston.
They don't have mason jars up there?
Well, they have them, but it seems that all the cool kids use it as a drinking glass now.
Oh, got it. Yeah, they have kind of come back into style in some different ways, but yeah, here in the South, we love our mason jars.
And in the book, from what I was reading, it's the book really kind of celebrates doing things yourself, getting back to nature, and kind of being not relying on the big supermarkets.
Exactly. And I think there's a huge movement for that right now across the country. We're just all trying to eat more natural, grow our own food, try to find ways to live healthier lifestyles, and just to take care of our bodies and also take care of our world and our environment.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Carolyn, don't tell anybody this, but my wife it was very successful. She grew, I guess, it's a head of lettuce. And
Congratulations!
They're all standing up like little soldiers, and it's kind of weird going out there. I made her a sandwich last night, and I'm out there kind of picking the lettuce off, and I'm like, we're really like growing food, and we're gonna eat it. This is so cool.
You know, we have tried to grow lettuce several years in a row, and our rabbits keep taking it before we can get to it. It's on our deck. Okay.
So the rabbit has to brave going up the stairs and all that stuff. And we had a dog for a long time. So, but rabbits are the bane of my beautiful wife's garden.
No lie, we planted a row of what my husband called garbage lettuce, which was just the very basic green head lettuce that we wouldn't eat, so that the rabbits would get to that before they would get to our spinach and our kale and all our good stuff. They skipped over that whole row and went straight for the kale and straight for the spinach. We had nothing but that garbage lettuce for that whole season. It was hilarious.
Rabbits, they're not dumb.
No, they're not. They're very smart, and evidently now they're very healthy, at least the ones on our street.
So who are we going to meet when we're reading M is for Mason Jar with our kids?
With our kids?
Who are the characters we're going to meet in the book?
Okay, well, they're not named, so they can be whatever the kids want to be. It's just a typical modern homesteading family that is trying to grow their own food and teach their kids a self-sustaining lifestyle that they can take with them into their adult lives. So it's all about fun and trying to experiment and experience these new things that maybe these kids haven't experienced before.
Well, certainly my kids, if my kids were still 4 or 5 years old right now, they could relate to that because they certainly didn't experience that here, growing up here in Boston. What was it that inspired you to write this?
You know, I did not grow up in a homesteading family. It was something I kind of stumbled across as an adult, just mainly for my own health reasons. I started having to eat more fresh and healthy, nutritious food without all the preservatives. And the more I got into that lifestyle, the more I started to come across other people who were homesteading. Started following their podcasts, getting some great recipes from them. And it didn't really cross my mind to write a book about it. You know, I never felt like an expert in that kind of field. But in 2020, people were starting to get a little stir crazy. So on one of the homesteading communities that I follow on Facebook, they started this thread right in the middle of the pandemic about all the ABCs of homesteading. So I joked with my husband. I was like, I bet I could write a kid's version of this. And he looked me deadpan in the face and said, why don't you? Mm-hmm. And so I took it as a dare. And so I wrote it for fun. He and I worked together to come up with the words and different for each letter and how to kind of give a broad breadth overview of what homesteading is like. And then I stuck it in a drawer for a while.
Well, it seems like that's where a lot of stories go to grow and kind of come of age.
Yeah, it needed a little bit of time. It needed the right time to come out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious of all the words that you and your husband came up with to match the letters of the alphabet. What was the word or the letter that you struggled the most with? Oh
my goodness. I'm almost embarrassed to say because it's It's the one that most people criticize me for. And that was the letter X. Because it's
Okay.
like, what do you use for the letter X on for homesteading? I mean, there's a couple, I think, flower names that begin with X, but I couldn't really come up with a good X word for this. So I did a little bit of wordplay and I used crossing. So it was about all the different crossings on a farm, the chicken crossing, the goat crossing, all the different, and the artist had fun with it. So they did a spread where a bunch of these animals were crossing the road. So it was just for fun,
Okay.
but it was a hard letter to come up with.
I could see where some people, people who don't
was
have enough going on in their life.
It was a stretch, but I just, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, yeah. And at least you didn't say X is a social media platform I found this recipe on.
Yes, actually, back when I wrote it, X didn't exist. It was still Twitter.
Oh, what was the letter that came easiest for you, that just popped out? Or even better, was there a letter and a word that you and your husband fought about and said, no, it should be this, it should be that, and you said, no, I'm the writer, you sit down?
I don't know if we fought over any of the letters. We just kind of brainstormed together, and I created a long list for every single letter just so I'd have some things to play with. And what I ended up doing with the book is I didn't use the letter just once. I used on each page it 3, maybe 4 times, so that there was a repetition in the sounds of the letter. So you were reinforcing not just the letter, but the letter sounds. Probably the easiest one for me was B, because it was baking biscuits. I mean, who doesn't love to bake biscuits? I mean, not all of us bake them from scratch, but I have an affinity for biscuits. I love good old Southern style biscuits. So for me, that was an easy sell.
I didn't hear the ing in baking. I thought you said bacon biscuits, and I thought, ooh, that would be.
Now my husband would love that. He's a big bacon lover. He would have loved it if I included bacon in there.
Yeah, yeah. Now, did you play with it? Did you do anything that you thought would twist the tongues of the adults reading the books, like A is for arugula?
No, I tried to be nice on our parents. I didn't want to give too many tongue twisters in there. I tried to keep it all flowing naturally, at least for me. So I tried to minimalize that as much as possible, but I did have to play with it a little bit so that each line would flow a little bit better, at least on my tongue. I apologize if it trips anybody else's tongue out there.
Well, I've shared this on the podcast a few times. When I was younger, I had a very, very pronounced speech impediment and had lots of difficulties with certain letters, F and S. And if I'm tired, sometimes that they will come out. And I finally picked up on it when I would come back from a road trip, driving like, say, 7 hours from Philadelphia back to Boston, and the kids would just sit down and go, "Oh, Pop, you got to read me a book." And I go, "Okay." And of course, they would pull out Fox in Socks, and and finally, when it dawned on me that they were doing it on purpose, I'm like, "You little."
Kids will do that, won't they?
Absolutely.
I think it's pure entertainment on their end.
Oh, I know. They were loving it. Tell me, what do you love most about writing for kids?
Oh gosh, there's so many things. I mean, I love the breadth and the creativity of the books that are out now, especially in nonfiction. It's a golden age of nonfiction kids books. I mean, it was all these books I wish were available when I was a kid. I would have just gone nuts. But I love to see a child's face when a light bulb goes on. And I've had a lot of different experiences with reading books to kids, and they just suddenly, there's a light bulb moment, and you see it come on in their head, or they just fall in love with a book. It's like they've discovered something new. They've discovered a treasure. And I love watching that happen if I get the chance to. And I hope that what I write sparks that light bulb for many, many kids.
Yeah. I hope if people are listening, they take a minute when you're reading with your kids and you have those light bulb moments and you notice, oh, my kid, they just made the connect. That's so cool. Take a moment and try to let the author know.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Because we don't hear those stories, and we love them. Those stories are what keeps us going.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So was being a kid's author, was that always the dream for you?
No. In fact, I one time said I would never be a children's author. I had been told it was too hard, that it was one of the most difficult writing careers to choose. And when I was young, I just wanted to write. So I figured I would write adult fiction. And how I ended up with children's nonfiction, I'm still not sure. But it was just a series of different paths and decisions that came across my way. And honestly, after working as a journalist for so long and telling real people's stories over and over again, and just loving to find these little stories that no one else is telling, when I started to discover that in history and literature, I just took it and ran with it.
Yeah. So,
it was
so
a matter of it.
Yeah. So you were doing that the rest of the story kind of thing?
Yeah, I kind of would find these little nuggets in history or little nuggets in nature, and something that people just were overlooking, and just try to weave it into a story somehow. It just came naturally to me.
Neat.
And I love discoveries. So to me, if I can find some excitement about it, I'm hoping kids will too.
Yeah. And you're obviously a fan of light bulbs. You like it when it goes off in a kid's mind. You like it when it goes off in your mind.
I do. I love those moments when suddenly everything connects and then my face lights up.
Well, one of the things that I want to connect with right now is I can see over your shoulder you have a copy of one of your books, Moon Tree. What in the world is a moon tree?
I'm glad you asked. Moon trees grew from a group of seeds that flew to the moon on Apollo 14. And I stumbled across my first moon tree several years ago, and I had never heard of one. So my little curiosity wheel started turning, and I had to find out more about it. And I just absolutely fell in love with the story, and I had to write it. It was one of those stories that really hadn't been told. No one had written about him at that time. So it got picked up and got published. So I hope it's inspiring kids to dream big.
Yeah. So these little seedlings went up to the moon, and then they came back down and they're planted somewhere?
They did. They flew to the moon, circled the moon several dozen times, and came back, and they became a part of an experiment that NASA and the Forest Service did to see if seeds would grow after being exposed to zero gravity. Mm-hmm. That had not been done before. This was 1971. So it was one of the first space experiments that had to deal with seeds. And it kicked off this whole long line of experiments on growing plants and vegetables in space.
Wow. Very cool. Now, if those trees are planted here, you said you ran across one. Where did you run into one?
Yes, it's actually a fascinating story because most of those trees have been lost to history. Mm-hmm. But NASA was able to rediscover about 80 of the original 400 to 500. I think there were about 450 that were planted back during the bicentennial. And they were able to find about 80 of them. So most of them are very clearly marked right now. And there is a moon tree in our county up in Pisgah National Forest at a museum called the Cradle of Forestry, which was where modern forestry kind of began here in the United States.
Wow.
And they have one of the original trees. And I just happened to be up there doing some research, and I saw the placard, read it, was fascinated by it, and I just had to dive into my own research. Wow. And the story's just great because it was almost lost to history.
Wow.
And it was a group of kids that kept it alive.
Uh-huh. That's really neat. I love those stories where kids see a problem, they suggest a solution, and then they push it to get government to respond. Here in our little neighborhood of Reedville, there was one of my son's buddies in kindergarten was really upset because he saw that a goose had been run over, and wrote to the mayor, who actually happened to be living in our city, and they erected a goose crossing for the ducks and the geese to go back and forth from a park into Little River.
It's great. See, those crossings are very important.
They are. That's right. X marks the spot where they cross. Hey, can you give us a preview of what might be percolating in that drawer of yours?
Well, Familius just purchased another one of my books called Fire Seeds. So that is another little tiny thing in nature that isn't talked about a whole lot, but it's all about seeds that need fire to grow. So that'll be coming out in a few more years. It's on down the line for a while, so I can talk about it a little bit. So
okay. All right.
That's the next book down the line, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah. One of the things that fascinated me was when I spoke to Christopher Robbins here on Reading with Your Kids, and he told me, I said, hey, how long does it take from the time you buy a manuscript until it hits the shelves? And I literally almost fell on the floor, and he said, well, it could take, 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, 3 or 4 years?
Yep, it can.
Yeah. But it takes that, it takes that long for, the illustrations to come together and polishing up and making sure that it is as perfect as it can be.
Exactly. And we don't want to put anything out that's anything less.
Right. Hey, tell everybody, please, Carolyn, where they can go to find out more about M is for Mason Jar and find out more about you.
Sure. My website is carolynbfraiser.com. And I'm on socials at Carolyn B. Fraiser. Familius and Abrams Books both have the book, M is for Mason Jar, up on their website, so you can go search for it there. It's also available for pre-order for online on most independent bookstores that use bookshop.org, so it's already up there and available for pre-order. If anyone wants a signed copy, they can order it through my local bookstore at Highland Books in Brevard, North Carolina, and they'll make sure I personally sign the copies before they go out. All they have to do is request signed copy when they order the book.
Awesome. No auto pen for you, right?
No, nothing like that.
Awesome. We had a really fun time speaking to the author of M is for Mason Jar. Our guest has been Carolyn Fraiser. Hey, Carolyn, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from the beautiful nation of Spain. Our guest is returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called Jinx. Please welcome to the show, Evelyn Bookless. Hey, Evelyn, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. And thank you so much for having me back. I love speaking with you, and your enthusiasm for kids' books and spreading the message about them is really admirable. It's lovely to be here again.
Thank you for those very kind words. We had such a great time speaking with you about your Captain Green series. It was one of the first books we celebrated in our Protecting the Planet with Your Kids series, and it was so much fun. I'm really excited that you're back with this new book.
Thank you.
Tell us about Jinx.
Okay, well, it's quite different to my two Captain Green books, which are both focused on the environment. They're still quite playful books, but this takes it, I feel, to another level with the humor. This book was inspired by my childhood growing up in Ireland, and I loved to play Jinx. I don't know if you know the game yourself.
I am definitely familiar with the word Jinx. I think it was here, like if you say the same word at the same time, then you jinx, and you think you have to do something with your pinky. But I'm almost 100, so it's been a long time since I played those games.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that's exactly how I know it. And it was very interesting for me that growing up in Ireland, we played it, and it seems like it was very well known in the US as well. And, you know, from all generations still seem to know it. Yet somehow there hadn't been a picture book written about it, at least that I'm aware of. And I wanted to write a book that was quite interactive, and children could really feel they were part of the story. And as I loved playing this, it's very simple, so I guess a game is maybe a stretch, but it's like a little trick that we would play with each other, friends, family, siblings, and everyone knew it. And as you said, it's just a case of if you happen to say the exact same word or phrase at the same time as someone else, then you can get jinxed, and you're not supposed to speak. And if you do, you lose the jinx. And there are different rules I found about getting released from the jinx as well. That's where there's more variety. But that part doesn't feature so much in this story. I thought it could be a really funny book, and I had to go writing the story. And it just turned out to be so much fun to write, because I had to come up with ways for this book character to trick the reader into getting jinxed, and then to try and trick the reader into losing the jinx by doing all sorts of funny things throughout the story.
Awesome. So how do we get the kids to get jinxed while we're reading this?
That's a really good question. And it took a while to come up with something that was just really simple yet effective. I know your listeners won't be able to see the book. So the main character almost looks like a big, pink, fluffy creature, a little bit cat-like, but it's not anything distinct. And when I wrote the story, I left it completely open-ended for the illustrator to be able to decide what they would look like. I mean, it could have been a child, it could have been a monster, could even have been a big blob. And I recently spoke with the illustrator, Anna Susbauer, and she said she loved the amount of creative freedom that gave her when it came to illustrating the book. But to answer your question, it starts off immediately with the character speaking directly to the reader and asking her and saying, "Hey, let's play a game. I bet I can say the color on the next page before you. I need to hear you, so say it loud. Ready?" And then there's going to be a page turn, and the character holds up something with a color. And the idea is that the reader is already primed to want to win this little game, and they both say it together. And then we have our jinx. And then the fun and games really start.
Excellent. What a clever way to do that. How did you, you said you really had to work hard to come up with that idea. How long did it take you? Were we talking weeks and months and?
Yes, weeks, because I kept working on this story once I started it because I was enjoying it a lot and I got good feedback from my critique partners that they were excited about it. So it was just a few little changes, really. I mean, maybe 3 or 4 revisions for that section to finally decide on a color to be the really easy, quick thing that, when a child turns the page, it's simple, it's clear. They're going to say green. I had something else when I started off, and I can't remember what it was right now. Sometimes you forget it because it's been tossed to the side.
Huh?
Yeah, but yeah, initially it was something else, simple but not as good.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. It's really fun when kids, especially young kids, get involved in the book. They're able to anticipate what's going to happen, or they're joining in. It really builds kids' confidence in their belief that they will be able to read.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's important. We want to empower our young readers and want them to enjoy what they're reading and want to be lifelong readers, essentially. And, I think reading is so powerful for children, and, we as their adults, want to put books in front of them that they're going to enjoy. And when it can be interactive, not all books are there solely for entertainment, but, when they can be interactive as well, it can be very powerful for them, because certainly I feel with this book, they know they have to try so hard to be silent throughout the rest of the book, or they will lose the jinx. So they have that power within them to try to keep quiet despite what is happening.
Awesome. How you mentioned that that you were having really a lot of fun with this. Was it that you were cracking yourself up as you're typing the story, or was it you were having fun when you were sharing it with before it was published? And what do you think about this? And
both of those. And really the having fun writing it was coming up with ways that were funny for the reader to be tricked to speak. And I wanted to make them unexpected as well. And I have a mix of funny things as well as maybe a sudden surprise. I'll share one with you.
Sure.
So at one point, the book character is getting a little bit exasperated because despite their efforts, they feel like the reader is still being silent.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, "Hey, you're good at this." So there is that empowerment as well, that bit of feedback to the reader. You're doing really well here, because you haven't spoken. We're assuming they haven't, but we're going along with the the premise that the child being read the story has remained silent. So the book character then tries to scare them a little bit, by saying, "There's a huge spider over your shoulder." The other shoulder. Scared. To the point where hopefully the child reader, will actually look over their shoulder as they're saying this just to check and make sure that in fact there isn't a spider there. So there's everything from surprises to jokes to, really building up some suspense and then a reveal, to try and get the child to lose the game.
Yeah. I'm hearing this and I'm thinking back to when my kids were cuddled up on my laps, and I know that they would have had a blast with, me reading to them. "Oh, look, there's a spider over your shoulder." And, and not knowing if it was me talking or if I'm reading it. And I would have a lot of fun. I think I'd really play into that a lot.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you can see how, it can work really well. And like you say, they might be a little bit, "Oh gosh, is there's the spider over my shoulder?" Or is it the book character and is it true? And yeah, it really kind of plays with reality, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see my daughter, if she fell for it, she'd turn and go, "Bobby, knock it off."
And that's, I guess, what I enjoyed about it. It just, there's playfulness, interactivity, and surprises.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's nice when we can surprise our readers.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a goofy question. If this if Hollywood comes knocking, or Bollywood, whoever knows, whichever, comes knocking on your door and says, we want to turn this into a live action movie, who could you envision playing the Jinx?
Oh gosh, that's an amazing question. And I can't even imagine something that amazing happening. That would be so incredible. Um, Gosh, I think it has to have that feeling of a kid. The book character almost represents a child playing a game with another child. So it has to be somebody young and playful. And I'm really struggling to think of a young playful actor or actress. It's not even clear if it's a boy, girl, it's all just left very open. And I really wanted to appeal to as many readers as possible. As an adult, I think of someone really silly, like the likes of Will Ferrell, who I think is hilarious.
Yep.
So we just need to find the child version of that. Maybe you can help me.
Well, my mind is blank, but I think Will Ferrell would be a great one, and that's we'll keep Will on the phone until we can find a younger actor or actress. Tell me, what's your creative space like? I'm really fascinated. I love asking illustrators about their creative process, and authors also have different creative processes. What about yours? When Evelyn sits down to write a book, do you have a certain place in your home? Do you go to a cafe?
No, I tend to really write mostly from my home. And I'm sitting in that room right now when you're interviewing me. So I'm lucky I have a small office and it's peaceful. I tend to write mostly in the mornings when my brain is freshest. And yeah, I like to have quiet. So cafes wouldn't necessarily work for me. Also, there might be too many distractions, even if I couldn't hear, just things to look at, so pretty tame space with not a lot going on. So I can really just lose myself in what I'm trying to create. Yeah, so it tends to be at home really, for me, rather than even out and about or even traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because as I was asking that question, I'm looking from what I can see of your space, and there's not a lot of distractions. It's lovely, and very much unlike most of the creative spaces that I find illustrators in. And illustrators typically, when they come on, if they're in their studio, it's a very busy place. There's all sorts of images and art and color all around them. So, yeah, two different ways of looking at a story.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need minimal distractions. No excuses to be doing anything other than just, what I'm really trying to achieve in the limited time I have.
Yeah. Tell me, is Captain Green retired right now, or are you working on more stories with that character?
Not working on more stories, but I like to think he's not retired. I know that the book is popular, especially in schools, because of the strong environmental message and the way that it's hopefully presented in a way that's fun for children still. And it's not, super preachy. It's not all about the message, and there's, some nice stories and fun language. But no, I haven't got a third one because I just couldn't think of another topic that fit well with the book. So I covered plastic pollution with Captain Green and the plastic scene, and deforestation with the second book, Captain Green and the Tree Machine. And there just wasn't another topic that was calling out to be written in this format. I did try a little bit with ice caps melting, and it just I wasn't feeling it in the same way. I think I had Captain Green and the Freeze Machine to deal with ice caps melting and all of that. But no, for now, I wouldn't say that never again. I wouldn't feel passionate enough and inspired enough to write another one. I do tend to write a lot more humor now, like full on humor, and silliness. And then at the same time, I do have a few very different, quiet, more introspective stories as well. So there is variety, but I think humor is my big passion.
There you go. Is the character Jinx, do you think that character will appear in future books?
I would love if that were the case. I do have ideas for at least 2 more books with this same character and even the same game, but taking it on. Because when the story ends, there's a twist. So eventually our main character, gets what's coming to them in a way. They've been ruling the whole book and trying to trick the reader. And then there's a twist. Things don't turn out quite as they expected. And then, without giving away too much, they're left silenced at the end, shall we say. And then in the back cover, there's a really beautiful illustration that Anna did of the character making an announcement, almost trying to change the rules. And they say, "New rule. I am released from my jinx when you open this book." And I guess the idea with that was I wanted children to want to reread the book straight away. So they kind of can immediately go back and start all over again. And it's a fresh go. But I felt it also could lead on nicely to another story with this book character and this game, but like another, maybe about them being released, how you get released and all sorts of rules around that. So yeah, I do feel there's scope to have lots of fun. And Anna created such beautiful illustrations. There's so many different expressions on the character's face, and there's a lot, it says a lot without saying it about emotions as well.
Yep.
And there's also an underlying message, that even the smallest among us can succeed if we put our minds to it. And that the reader, even though they're silenced throughout most of the book, finds a way to turn things around.
I love it. I love it. It sounds like it would be a lot of fun. And I just hope lots and lots of families get jinxed.
Thank you. I hope so too. And, just thinking that when people get a chance to read the book, that it, could just be bringing them 5-10 more minutes of fun. And, the rest of the world doesn't matter in that time. It makes me feel very satisfied as a writer for kids.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Hey, Evelyn, tell everybody, please, where they can go to find out more about Jinx and more about you.
Well, my website is www.evelynbookless.com, and on there, everything you could need, including links to buy the book. And there's some activities related to the book as well. There's a joke making activity where, children can kind of progressively maybe make some of their own jokes up, because in the book, one of the strategies that the character uses to try and get the reader to speak is telling them a joke.
Okay.
And they think it's hilarious. But hopefully the reader doesn't laugh, because apparently laughing is talking and you can lose your jinx if you laugh.
Okay. I love it. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Jinx. It's a brand new picture book from our guest, Evelyn Bookless. Evelyn, thanks for being back with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to speak with you.
This episode is also brought to you by CozyEarth.com. One of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening up a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt in your life. That's why I'm thrilled to welcome CozyEarth.com. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights with chilly toes. Right now, CozyEarth.com is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an exclusive and incredible 41% off their entire site. That's right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook. Wrap yourself and your kids in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Go ahead to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. Join us right now from the great state of Ohio. Our guests are here today to celebrate their new children's book. It's called Attack of the Monster Pickles. Please welcome to the show Sarah Elizabeth Graves and her co-author, Parker. My friends, how are you?
Hi, we're excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, you are most welcome. That first voice you heard is Sarah. Sarah, you are the co-author of Attack of the Monster Pickles with your son. Tell me, what inspired you to sit down and create a book with your son?
Well, it was actually inspired by, I like to call it, quote unquote, real life events. Mutant pickles.
Wait a minute. You were telling me that somewhere in Ohio, a monster pickle came into your home and life?
Yeah, that's what the quotes are for.
Okay.
Yeah, pickles aren't really coming to life. In fact, the message of the book is about using your imagination to overcome your fears. But the story started because one night, I think when Parker was around 6. Yeah, he was having trouble going to sleep at night, just like the boy in the book, because he was hearing, those sounds that houses make at night, the creaks and the cracks and that kind of thing. And just like the mom in the story, I tried to explain to him what they really were, that it was just the house making noises, and he would not believe me. So I tried a different tactic, and I asked him, well, what do you think the noises are? And what was your answer?
Creepy pickles.
Yeah.
We had to
Creepy pickles.
because of copyright issues.
Yeah, there's a series by Aaron Reynolds called Creepy Crayon, Creepy Pair of Underwear, Creepy Carrots. Are you familiar with that one?
I'm not.
Okay. So that series kind of has the monopoly on the word creepy. So we were advised to change it to monsters.
Okay.
He said creepy pickles.
Okay.
And I just thought the answer was so funny and so weird, like pickles, really? That I just asked him to tell me more about the pickles. And that's how it kind of started. So he told me about, pickles with laser eyes. And I asked him, well, what would you do with these, against these pickles? And that's how we came up with cowboys and ninjas and all the other characters in the story.
Parker, you seem like a fascinating young man. It sounds like you have a really vivid imagination. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah? Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know, but I made my own Pokemon.
You made your own Pokemon? Okay. Well, mommy and daddy are both writers, so maybe there's a genetic factor. But he also has ADHD. So one of our sort of missions with this book is to kind of encourage other kids who have ADHD. Let me back up a second. Oftentimes in school, kids that are neurodiverse, like kids with ADHD, get this message that they're not as capable as kids who are neurotypical. And so I can remember when Parker was younger, he used to come home from school upset. He doesn't so much anymore, but he used to come home from school upset. He goes to excellent schools, by the way, and has very empathetic teachers. So this isn't a statement against them. But he would come home and he would ask me questions about, whether he was smart or not. He didn't believe that because tasks would take him longer to do. It was harder for him to focus in school, that kind of thing. But I've been doing some investigation recently, and creativity actually is connected to ADHD. There's some research that supports that. So that might be part of it.
What research?
Like people who have done scientific studies. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Okay. Of course, that doesn't apply across the board, that just because you have ADHD, you'll be super creative. But I think that's one of the things that, we tend to look at some situations all in the negative, but sometimes they can have a positive. And so the positive here is Parker's, I like to call it his supercharged creativity.
Tell me, what was the process like, Sarah, creating the book with Parker?
Well, the story is mostly his. I would say what would you say, 95%? I put a few tweaks on it, but the story is mostly his. I did the writing part. So basically I would ask him, about the pickles. What are these pickles? What do the pickles do? How do we defeat the pickles? Questions like that. And he would tell me. And then I would take what he told me and then work it into a plot structure, work it into a story.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Parker would have ideas because he does have, kind of creativity all over the place where he's bombarded with a million ideas at once. And so sometimes I had to kind of tame that down a little bit, but I do think it worked easier just to have him tell me all the ideas and then me to go and then write it. And then I would bring it back to him and say, well, what do you think about what I did? Do you like this or do you don't like this?
Parker, I'm curious, how many times did your mom come back after taking your ideas and putting them on paper? Did you say, "That's great, Mom," or did you tell her, "Try it again, lady, you didn't get that right"?
Sometimes you did. Do you remember? We actually wrote the book about 3 years ago, so there are parts of it he doesn't remember as well when he gets asked these questions. But sometimes he did. He was like, "No, Mommy, that's not right." And other times he was like, "That's great, Mommy." His 10-year-old slang is fire, where he'd say, "That's fire, Mommy."
Awesome. Tell me, Parker, did you enjoy creating Attack of the Monster Pickles?
I enjoyed looking at the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super cool to have written a story and then watch an illustrator bring it to life, because it's, a story is something, as you know, that's just in your own imagination, right? And then you hand it over to an illustrator and they bring it to life in pictures. So that was one of the most exciting parts is we would get like, I don't know what you call them, not proofs exactly, but like sketches or like preliminary pictures. And we would get to, okay them or ask for changes. But every time I showed the pictures to Parker, his eyes would just light up. He was so excited.
Awesome.
So that definitely was one of his favorite parts.
Sarah, what about you and your writing? You've been creating children's storybooks before you collaborated with Parker. Is that right?
Yeah. So I have not published it. This is my first one that I've published. But it's not the first one that I wrote. Okay. I wrote another one that also was inspired by Parker. He had this, he's obsessed with superheroes. In fact, his name Parker comes from Spider-Man, from Peter Parker. And he used to be, if you asked him what he wanted to be when he grows up, he would say Batman. So he was convinced that he was supposed to grow up to be a superhero, but he would ask me, Mommy, how can I be a superhero if I don't have any powers? Of course, Batman doesn't have any powers.
I've never said that.
You said that all the time when you were little.
I've never said that.
He said that a lot.
No, I didn't.
Well, Parker, the thing, you probably don't remember that because
he was little.
You've come to realize that you do have a superpower in your imagination.
Yeah. That's true.
No, I need money to be my superpower.
Anyway, the first book was an answer to that question of how you can be a superhero without powers.
Awesome.
But I have more that I have in the works that I'm planning to, that have been, well, I was starting to say planning to write, but I have them in various stages of draft. So I have 4, I think, that are pretty finished, and then others that are more in the idea stage.
Great. Fantastic. Okay, and last question for you, Parker. Have you sat down with a lawyer to work out a split with your mom about all the millions of dollars that will come in after people start buying your butt? Are you going to be a 50-50 split, or do you want 75%? Or
yes.
Tell them what you really
99%. I want 99%.
Tell them what you really want to do with the money.
Buy a Lego Death Star.
He has wanted a Lego Death Star for years, and he keeps begging me for it, but it's out of production, so you can only get it on eBay for like $1,500.
Oh, no, you don't want
So he's decided if he ever comes into money or wins the lottery, he's buying a Lego Death Star.
No, you're buying it.
Well, if it would be your money, because we're splitting it, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've had a really interesting time speaking to the authors of Attack of the Monster Pickles. Our guests have been Sarah Elizabeth Graves and her son, Parker. Hey, Parker, and Sarah, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of Reading with Your Kids. If you're an author with a fantastic children's book, we'd love to hear from you. Visit readingwithyourkids.com and click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to learn how you can be a guest here on the show and tell thousands of Kidlit fans all over the world about your fantastic children's book. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with your friends. Leave a 5-star review and subscribe. It really helps us grow. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Carolyn Fraiser. Please be sure to check out M is for Mason Jar. Evelyn Bookless. Please be sure to check out Jinx. And Sarah Elizabeth Graves and her son Parker. Be sure to check out Attack of the Monster Pickles. I want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Every time you read with your kids, you're creating magic and making the world a better place. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.